Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai, Jagannath Swami ki jai, Ganga Mai ki jai, Jamuna Mai ki jai, Tulsi Devi ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Hare Krishna Mahamantra ki jai, Samaveta Bhaktavinda ki jai, Nitai Go Pramanande, Hari Bo. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Guru and Gauranga first to the Pope. Namo Shivaya Krishna Krishna Srimati Bhakti Tera Swami Nityananda. Namaste Krishna Varaya Prabhupada Siddhartha Namaste Gaur Karana Shakti Bhakti Tera Narayana Namaste Narontevam Narotamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayam Gudirayat Nashtapayesu Abhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatu Tamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, devotees. Good morning. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 11, Text 14. Samvatsara parivatsar, Vedavatsara evacha, Anuvatsara vatsarascha, Vedureva prabhasyate. Samvatsara parivatsar, Vedavatsara evacha, Anuvatsaro vatsarascha, Vidureva prabhasyate. Samvatsara pavivatsara, Idavatsara evacha, Anuvatsaro vatsarascha, Vidureva prabhasyate. Hare Krishna. Please stand.
Hare Krishna. Samvatsara parivatsar, idavatsar evacha, anuvatsaro vatraksha, vidureva prabhashyate. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else?
Samvatsara parivatsara idavatsara evacha anuvatsaro vatsarascha viduraivam prabhashyate. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Krishna. Samvatsara parivatsara idavatsara evascha anuvatsaro vatsarascha vidurevam prabhasyate. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else?
Hare Krishna. Samvatsara parivatsara idavatsara evacha anuvatsara vatsarascha viduraivam prabhavashyate. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else? Okay. So we do word for word now. Samvatsara, orbit of the sun. Parivatsara, circumambulation of Brihaspati. Idavatsara, orbit of the stars. Eva, as they are. Cha, also. Anuvatsara, orbit of the moon. Vatsara, 1 calendar year. Cha, also. Vidura, Vidura, Vidura. Evam, thus. Prabhasyate, they are so told. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. There are 5 different names for the orbits of the sun, moon, stars, and luminaries in the firmament, and they each have their own samvatsara. Right. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The subject matters of physics, chemistry, mathematics, astronomy, time, and space dealt with in the above verses of Srimad Bhagavatam are certainly very interesting to students of the particular subject. But as far as we are concerned, we cannot explain them very thoroughly in terms of technical knowledge. The subject is summarized by the statement that above all the different branches of knowledge is the supreme control of Kala, the plenary representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nothing exists without him. And therefore, everything, however wonderful it may appear to our meager knowledge, is but the work of the magic wand of the Supreme Lord. And as far as time is concerned, we beg to subjoin herewith a table of timings in terms of the modern clock. 1 Truti is 8/13,500th second. 1 Veda is 8/135th second. 1 Lava is 8/45th second. 1 Nimesh, 8/15th of a second. 1 Chana, 8/5 of a second. 1 Kashta, 8 seconds. 1 Lagu, 2 minutes. 1 Danda, 30 minutes. 1 Prahara, 3 hours. 1 day, 12 hours. 1 night, 12 hours. 1 Paksha, 15 days. 2 Pakshas comprise 1 month. 12 months comprise 1 calendar year, or 1 full orbit of the sun. A human being is expected to live up to 100 years. That is the way of the controlling measure of eternal time. The Brahma Samhita, chapter 5, text 52, affirms his control in this way. Yatshakshu esha shavita sakala grahanam raja samasta suramuti ashesha teja yasya gaya pramati sambrita kala chakro govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, under whose control even the sun, which is considered to be the eye of the Lord, rotates within the fixed orbit of eternal time. The sun is the king of all planetary systems and has unlimited potency in heat and light. Oma Ganati Vedandasya, Yana Gana Shalakaya, Chakshu Umlitam Dena, Tasma Shri Gurave Namaha, Shri Chaitanya Madhogishtam, Sapitam Jena Bhutale, Swayam Rupa Kadamayam, Vedanti Swa Padantikam. Vande Ham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamala, Shri Guru Vaisnavascha, Shri Rupa Sagijatam Sahagana Raghunatam Pitam Tam Sajivam, Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Deva, Sri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Vitamscha. He Krishna, Karuna Sindhu, Dina Bandhu Jagat Pate, Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostite, Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari, Vishavanu Devi, Paramami Hari Priya, Vanchakapataru Vescha Kripa Sindhivi Evacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschathyadi Satarani. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate. Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namni Gurati Namaha. Ananda Lilamaya Vigrahaya Himabhiri Vacha Vishindaraya. Tasmi Mahaprema Raspadaya. Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Hare Krishna. English translation. There are 5 different names for the orbits of the sun, moon, stars, and the luminaries in the firmament, and they each have their own samvatsara. Hare Krishna. So this chapter is talking about time. Time is very important in our lives. And time literally controls everything that we do. The modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance control the feel or the idea behind what we do. But when they occur and how they occur, that's controlled very much by time, especially when they occur. Sometimes how also plays a role, because when the weather adjusts to the time, the way the sun is moving or where the earth is rotating, we also can make adjustments to what we do. So time controls literally what we do. Some things we won't do at night, and other things we will do at night. Some things we'll do during the day, and other things we won't do during the day. So even though we're carrying out the activities in the modes of nature, it is actually time that determines what things that we do based on what the sun is doing. So time not only controls when things happen, but also what we do based on its interface with, for lack of a better word, interface with the weather. Now, the last word used in this is in this translation. And Srila Prabhupada actually talks more about it later. The important word here is, in the translation, samvatsara. Samvatsara. It means year. Now, we've been told about the different orbits of the sun, the moon, the stars, and other luminaries. They have their orbits. They have their orbits. There's actually the Dhruvaloka that they also orbit literally in obedience. Well, maybe obedience, not in obeisance. That's the right word. Obeisance to Dhruvaloka, being a spiritual planet in the material world. That is also going on. But the sun, one calendar year, according to what later on we'll talk about the different aspects of life and their calendar, the way they do things. According to us, we have approximately 360 days. Now, I want to bring attention very early to the breakdown of time that Srila Prabhupada offered in the purport. Split seconds, Truti, Veda, Lava, Nimesh, Shana, Kasta, Lagu, Danda, Prahara, and then day and night, and then it goes to Paksha, 15 days. Now, the interesting thing is that we need to know, because we are so used to, from science, being told that a day is 24 hours. In the Shastra, Srila Prabhupada says one day is 12 hours. And then one night is also 12 hours. Of course, 12 plus 12 is 24. So we think a day is 24 hours, but in spiritual science, a day is actually what we call our daytime. Our daytime. So that's 12 hours. Mm. So when in the Shastra it says Lord Brahma's day is 1,000 Divya Yugas, 1,000 Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga. When they say 1,000, actually, in Lord Brahma's time, only 12 hours have gone by. That's Brahma's day. And such is the day of the night also. So 4,320,000,000 years of our time is 12 hours of Lord Brahma's daytime, which he calls one day. And later on, we'll look at how the days go with the other planetary systems or the planets in particular. But it's interesting that daytime and nighttime very much control what we do. But Srila Prabhupada goes to the purport and says that, well, physics, chemistry, and math and astronomy, it's been studied by scientists to a certain extent. Srimad Bhagavatam deals with some aspects of practically all knowledge that even science doesn't know about. To give a few examples, when two souls enter into the womb of a woman, two souls, which means the woman is going to have twins. The arrangement after the 7th month is that near the womb, the vaginal tract that the babies are going to come out of, it is the one that is the younger of the conceived children that leads. That's up front. And the one that was conceived a little later, the older one, is in the back. For many, many years, and even in the custom that I was raised in, they say when the children are born and they're twins, the one that comes first is the older one, and the one that comes second is the younger one. Until I read Srimad Bhagavatam, it says it's exactly the opposite. The one that was conceived first, it's in the back, like that. So that's one point that had to be, corrected. Of course, had I not read some things in Bhagavad Gita and been already convinced about Krishna's statements, then I would have had trouble accepting that. But so many things about what life is like, with better explanations, have been given by Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam and Srila Prabhupada's purports. So then it becomes to a point where we believe in the statements of the founder Acharya and believe in the statement of also the Parampara. Then it becomes easy to accept as they are. And Srila Prabhupada even commented on just having to accept. If you don't know, we have to listen to the authorities. If you don't know, you have to listen to authorities. And he gave an example. When a child is born, it won't take long for the child to know who the mother is, because the mother is the one that cares for the child. If the child is going to be eating for them is breastfeeding. Immediately, the one human being that is supplying the breast milk is the one that the child would relate to. But who is the father? From the child's view, the child does not know the father. There could have been, 10 men in the hospital for when, the room later on the child got delivered. Which one is the father? Maybe the father was not even there. Of course, most of the time the father is there. But who is the father? It's only the mother that can tell the child, this is your father. And then I remember one time when our first daughter was born, of course, she didn't know who the father was. That was me. But we literally, when she could see one time, just put the baby in front of us. She already knew her mother. And we had big smiles on our face. And I remember the child, Vinda, she's called Manu now, but because of the station, looked at the mother and looked at me and looked at the mother and looked at me, and we were both smiling at the child. And that's when she learned. Oh, so there are two parents, and these are the two parents. So it takes the authority, it's the mother that brought me next to her for the child to understand that he has two parents, not one. There's two parents, and this is the other one, me. So it takes authority. And so some of these statements that are made, because they are so enough in our lives that prove the statements that are made to be true, then it's easier to then, as Sri Papa says, Shabda Praman, Veda Praman, says first class. You believe that. So yes, there's some things in this Kali Yuga, in these subjects, the things that can't be explained. We just talked about, if you can't explain it, you take the authority statement. But scientists wanting to be in the position of God, they come up with, oh, I think it's this way, I think it's this way, and they call it a hypothesis. So they make an assumption and then they try to prove it. And if they prove the proof is right, then they accept it as theory, and the proof, if it's not right, then they throw it out. Or they'll say, oh, we used to think that way, give a little historical breakdown of things. It was like that, and now we think it's this way, and now we, like that. And when I came to Krishna consciousness, I was so relieved to hear things presented in a factual way. We had lived a life in graduate school of so many assumptions or so many possibilities to explain one thing. And then you have to try to do research to find out which of the two possibilities is, or more, not even, sometimes it's more than two possibilities, two pathways, which one is likely to be the most acceptable one. Now, if you heard what I just said, I said, which one is likely to be the most acceptable? So I didn't even say definite. I said it's likely to be. And this is actually the way scientists present things. After all the research that they do and they write an article, they will say it's apparently this way. It's likely this way. Why? Because the instruments go only so far and they can't find out so many things up in the sky. And so, since quite a bit of our lives are proven through Srimad Bhagavatam and through Bhagavad Gita, like Krishna is saying, "Dehi no asminyata dehe komana yuvanam chara tata dehantara prapti." And then in the end, he challenges us, says, "Dhira satana mohyati." A sober person doesn't even get too surprised by that. How many people believe that? But one sentence proves the other one. As the soul passes through what I coined as small, medium, large, baby, and then teenager, and it goes to adults, the soul's in there when all of these changes are happening. So when the body is not needed anymore, it goes to the next one. Now, you try to tell a Christian that, they're not going to believe it. They think they live only one lifetime and that's it. They can understand that part, that they know because it's life. It's life. When a person is born, they will grow. So that's what the first statement says.
Yeah.
The soul passes, but it's used to say the next thing. Similarly, when the body is of no use any longer, then the soul goes into the next existence. But without believing that, which many of these religions don't believe, without believing that, there's so many things. I've come kind of laughing about it because there's so many phenomena in life they can't explain because they don't know that the subtle body carries the soul to the next existence. And the subtle body is mind intelligence in the sense of identity, which is the ego. Of course, since we're trying to lord it over nature, our ego has been framed as false ego. But the sense of identity, the mind and the intelligence. The mind keeps everything stored. Science is called the subconscious, which is part of the mind. And this is carried to the next existence. So when a child is put into a different womb for the next existence, especially if it's a human person, a human like a woman, and they get born, and this knowledge is come into the next life. Then it's easy to connect the things from the previous life to this life. Whatever the person was experting in a short while, at an early age, they're easily able to do. What do we call it? Talent. But it takes transmigration to explain talent, like we just talked about. It's from the previous life and the things that have happened in the previous life that they learned, they became expert in, that they take it to the next life. And that's why little 5-year-old boy can sit on the keyboard and play like an expert. And there are people that were not, playing that particular instrument in the previous life. Therefore, if they try it this life, they struggle with it. But this person has been doing it for life before. Hmm? It also affects how people are able to understand things, even in school, in certain subjects. There is a connection in the past life. Of course, you can learn things new also. Hmm? So time controls all of these. And the fact is, the knowledge in the Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita is actually superior knowledge. It's factual. Whereas in science, some things are explained and they're given a nice word called hypothesis. It's just assumptions. Personally, I was never happy with assumptions. I want to know the truth. And so I was particularly happy when I came to Krishna consciousness. Now, things that were around me that I couldn't explain where, that I didn't understand how they were, was explained. So we're saying all of that to say that we should believe every single text in the Bhagavad Gita, our basic book where Krishna himself is explaining. Nothing exists without Krishna. So this Srila Prabhupada is saying, the subject here is summarized, science and all the various disciplines in science. Srila Prabhupada says they are summarized in all different branches of knowledge, but they are all under the control of time. And time is a plenary representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Time, by the Lord's mercy, if you look up in the dictionary to talk about what is time, it doesn't give such great explanation. But things happen at different times. So if you say things happen in one word to describe all of that is events, things that happen. Of course, in Krishna's situation, we call them pastimes, lila. But generally, they are events, and they happen certain times. Here in the material world, time then is called an event marker. And I had to pray for this definition. This is not in a dictionary. I had to literally pray for this definition. It marks events. Why do you call some people this time their birthday? Well, it was the time they were born. So when one calendar year rolls by and that same period, the month and the day comes, we said this is a celebration of this particular birthday. So we counted a number of years. So much so that even when it has to get to that day before we say, oh, okay, you're 1 year old, now you're 2 years old. Even the day before, we don't say you're 2 years old. The calendar year has to come after that point before we get the next age, like that. But it's all controlled by the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his plenary representation as time. There is personal aspect and there's impersonal aspect of the Lord. Time is representation of the impersonal aspect of the Lord, as is also the effulgence, an impersonal aspect of the Lord. But the Lord, we are built in the form of the Lord, 2 hands, 2 legs. That's personal, and we relate to the Lord that way. And that's what the spiritual master, the preeminent spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, is directing us to, because love is based on relation to him. So nothing exists without him. And we put it this way, without Krishna, we can't even use the word existence. If the word existed, everything that exists is behind it. Everything that exists in the spiritual world is by the arrangement of the plenary expansion, the first expansion of the Lord, that's Balaram. And everything that exists in the material world is from the expansion of the expansion of the expansion, Mahavishnu, through whose pores the universe has come. They are all expansions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So I like what part where Srila Prabhupada says, this is the work of the magic wand of the Supreme Lord. Nice way, nice way to put it. Because if I could pull a little bit of part of the Bible into this, the Lord said, "Let there be light." Now that's as great as waving a magic wand, and it happens with intention. Mm-hmm. But it's, of course, just speaking like that. But the Lord's energy is there. So when he commands something to happen, then the energy that's supposed to make it happen immediately obeys. All things obey the Supreme Personality of God, except these few souls that are wound up in the material world that we didn't want to obey. But of course, now, by the mercy of the Parampara, we know better. So, Srila Prabhupada translates Bhagavad Gita chapter 7, text 7. The Sanskrit itself is Matta Parataram Nanyat Kinchidasi Dhananjaya Mahisavam Idam Prutam Sutramani Gana Eva. It quotes quite a bit. Like Bhakti Maharaj, Magdu Maharaj quoted a whole lot too. The translation is, O conqueror of wealth, Dhananjaya, referring to Arjuna, there is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread. That much control the Krishna describes. Everything rests in him. There is no truth superior to me. So sometimes some religions want to say, I am. There was one part that Jesus quoted, I am that I am. And then they expanded into so many different ways. But actually, many times they go off course. This is the real I am. Krishna says, I am. There is no truth superior to me. Everything, which means material and spiritual, both, they rest in me, upon me, just like pearls are strung on a thread. And pearls strung on a thread means he's in so much control, like he's wearing it. Everybody that wears something around their neck, they are pretty much in control of that thing. They can take it off, they can make it shorter, they can make it longer as they like. So Krishna using the word, everything rests in me as pearls are strung on a thread, shows his superior. He is the most superior of any controller. That's why he's called the supreme controller. The personal aspect of the Lord is important to us because it's how we relate to him. Now, Brahma Samhita Krishna says, Lord Brahma says, Ishwara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha. Ishwara Parama Krishna. Supreme Absolute Personality of Godhead is Lord Krishna, and he is the primeval Lord. He is the reservoir of all pleasure, Govinda. And he's also the eternal form of complete bliss and knowledge. Because he's eternal, we are eternal. So, in science, quite frankly, I have not heard, so I don't want to put myself as an authority over anybody in science, but I have not heard split seconds explained like that in terms of the modern clock. 2T, 813, 513,500 of a second. We can't imagine what it is like. And if you know it is there, other entities that are smaller, these are, for them, a decent amount of time. For us, it's a split second. Lava, and Sadhu Sangha, Savasiti Hoy, Lava Mata Sadhu Sangha, the association with a pure devotee, even one split second. And that math was done, 1/11th of a second. That's lava. So we know a few about those. Now, Paksha is 15 days. And there are a few things that connect. We'll talk about some of the luminaries and how time is figured there. We don't have to talk about the Earth because we know our time, and scientists have made it a little bit more confusing. But anyway, we will take the base number of days in a year as 360. We know it's 364, and they say the leap year is 360, 365, and a leap year is 366. So some people say, oh, every 4 years a leap year comes, and then so it's like 365 and a quarter. Well, now you should hear more about leap year. Sometimes a leap year is divisible by 4, but if it gets to like a year that has 2 zeros, like the year 1200 or the year 2400 or the year, like that, that's also a leap year because they say, this is what science is saying. They will talk about what Krishna talks about. When a leap year ends in 2 zeros, then it's divisible by 4, of course. But it also has to be divisible by 400. It has to be divisible not only by 4, but it has to be divisible by 400. So the year 2020 is divisible by 4. And that's how we were told. But if the year ends in 2 zeros, but not divisible by 400, then that's not a leap year. Now, how much confusion this can bring. So it's much better to go by how time is broken down according to what Krishna describes, what Maitreya Rishi describes in Bhagavatam. There is no confusion there. So it's actually preferable, whereas in science, there's so much confusion. Now, I know we talked about a year ending in 2 zeros, then it has to be divisible not only by 4 to be a leap year, it has to be divisible by 400 also. But having said this, I learned that in high school. But now that we're in Krishna consciousness, I don't take that seriously. And I will not, because so now that I know to the point that I got to in science, that so many assumptions are made. And we know that these scientists now don't have the kind of equipment in astronomy to find out what's really going on. Therefore, it's from an assumption, it's a hypothesis, and it's not to be believed. So time is actually one for us. It's very important to remember time keeps going on, and we have to use it profitably, especially in Krishna consciousness, because if we waste it, we cannot get it back. Srila Prabhupada says, therefore, we should go to bed, give ourselves about 6 hours. If you can function on 6 hours, that's good. Not 8, 10, so many, unless you're sick. Not too much time spent in bed, so you can use a good bit of the time for Krishna consciousness. So time is relative actually to the body. And that's why in Krishna consciousness, what we're seeing in this purpose, Srila Prabhupada offered to break down the time, because those that are in bodies of like bacteria, that they live a very short time compared to us, short time compared to us. These split-second times are normal for them. Just like a day is normal for us. That's their normal time. There are entities that get born, and by the end of our 24 hours, they've actually lived their whole lives. They're 100 years. They're 100 years, Kali Yuga. But that's one day. So the moon especially, we know a little bit about the moon. There's new moon, starting over, then we see the moon. The moon really never disappears, but how it's turning and so on. That affects our vision of it. Then there's also the full moon. So from starting from darkness where we can't see the moon, not that it's not there, it's there, to the next, when the moon, the next situation, when the moon is full, that takes 15 days. And that time is described by Srila Prabhupada. It's called the Paksha, 15 days. And it says 2 Pakshas comprise 1 month. So From no moon to the full moon is 15 days. And then, again, based on the rotation of the moon, then we begin to lose part of the moon, then we see at some point 3/4 of the moon, then half the moon, then 1/4 moon, and it's gone again. Another 15 days. So from the start of new moon, no moon, up to through full moon, up to a point where the moon disappears, that's 30 days. Now, other parts of Srimad Bhagavatam have explained that the beginning, when there's no moon, up to the full moon, that's one aspect of what's called a day. A day. And then on the moon now, on the moon planet. And when it goes from like our afternoon to it's going back to, it's getting dark. Then it gets to a point where there's no moon. That's the nighttime for them. For them. Therefore, 1 24-hour day, we call a day. The whole cycle happens on the moon in 1 month. When they go through what the full cycle is, from no moon, the way we see it, to full moon, and then back to no moon, that's 1 month for us is 1 full day cycle for them. Now, there are other planets, heavenly planets, that have an arrangement of 6 months being 1 day. A good many of the heavenly planets are like that. 6 months for us is their 1 day. 1 daytime. So another 6 months is 1 nighttime for them. So when we go through what we call a year, our calendar year, they've just gone through 1 day, full cycle, daytime and nighttime, like that. And that's why when we talk about celestial years and convert it to hours, 1 year, 1 day for them. 1 year for us, 1 day for them. So you just have to multiply by 360. That's it. 100 years, celestial years, is 100 times 360 our years, which is 3,000 or 36,000 years. 36,000 years. And the reason I brought it up was the curse that Narada Muni gave to or afforded to Nalakuvara and Manigriva. He had them as to go into Arjuna trees to be in Nanda Maharaj's courtyard for 100 celestial years. And I remember Gopal Maharaj in the lecture on that when he brought it up. 100 celestial years.
Sure.
100 years for demigods. That is, as soon as you hear that, you just multiply by 360. That's pretty close to what scientists call 365 years, 655 days for the year. So conversion multiplied by 360, that is 36,000. So Arjuna, Nalakuvara, and Manigriva sat in Nanda Maharaj's courtyard for 36,000 years. Then Krishna came and liberated them. So where they were, that was the situation. Now the Muni cursed them, but he also blessed them to grow in the trees for for that time, but close to Nanda Maharaj's. Therefore, Nanda Maharaj was supposed to be the foster father of Krishna. Therefore, they would be released that way. So in one sense, they were fortunate because when they were released, they were purified too by Krishna. Krishna's touch purifies. Now, Arjuna trees are described as very tall. In some places, it says it looks like it's touching the sky. They were that big. So they got relieved by Krishna's pastime as Damodar. And when Krishna talked to them, and literally, Krishna spoke directly to them. They were very fortunate. Crawling Krishna talked to them. And they got relieved. They went back to the heavenly planets, but with a changed consciousness that from after that lifetime, they were going back to the spiritual world. So they were fortunate, the sons of Kuvera. Now, Krishna says that he is time. And now this this text has explained that his time is a plenary expansion, an impersonal plenary expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Bhagavad Gita, Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, this is 11th chapter, text 32. Kalos min loka chasa pravido loka samahitam iha pravita rite pitvam na bhavishyanti sarve ya vashita patanikeshu yodha. Krishna describes himself as Supreme Personality. Time I am, the great destroyer of the worlds. And I have come here to destroy all people. This is in the Bhagavad Gita, in the battlefield. With the exception of you and the Pandavas. You, Arjuna, and your brothers, all the soldiers here on both sides will be slain. So Krishna says, time I am. Time I am. So Krishna is time in his impersonal form. And we know that we say time marks the beginning of something and the time that it stays, a period that it stays, and then it gets annihilated in the end. So Krishna said, in this case, because there's a war arranged by Krishna himself, he was going to annihilate all people on both sides. He actually was going to liberate them. By looking at Krishna, at the time they died, they would get to go to the Vaikuntha planets. So they were actually fortunate that Krishna was coming to give them a better life. Much, much, much better life. So the best use of time is to serve Krishna with it. Beginning with serving Krishna's devotees, then Krishna's representative, spiritual master. And this is how we learn to serve the Lord himself. And from serving through archana, from deity worship, slowly we develop love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It starts first with reverence. Many of us are at that level. You see, the deity, we're reverential towards the deity. But to love the Lord, like the cowherd boys love the Lord, like the gopis love the Lord, that would take some time. But there's one way to get us fairly quickly to that love situation. And that is described, this is the last text we're going to go here. Chapter 9, text 27. Yat karosi yat ashnasi, yat juhosi dadasi yat tapasyasi konteya, tat kurusvamad apanam. Krishna is saying, whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, whatever austerities that you perform, do that, O son of Kunti, as an offering to me. That is the best use of time. Whatever we do, whatever we eat, whatever we offer, whatever we give, even if we're giving charity, it has to be a Krishna-centered charity. And whatever austerities you perform, and we have to perform some austerities to show Krishna that we're serious to come to him and to love him. We want to learn how to, and that's why we get up early in the morning, but there are other metaphysical reasons why getting up in the morning to do rounds is the best thing to do also. Because that is the best time of the day. You can explain, don't go too much detail about that, but it is true. Metaphysically, it's actually the best time to do things. Do the best thing that you want to do, to give that time to Krishna. Do it as an offering to me. So it's the duty of everybody to mold his life, as Sri Prabhupada says in the purport, in such a way that he would not forget Krishna in any circumstance. Now, Srila Prabhupada, as the founder of Acharya and the preeminent Shiksha Guru, he says, when you remember Krishna, sing, it's been given your songs, sing your favorite tune. Whatever that you like, the songs that you like, because the melody sounds very nice, the tune sounds nice, sing that, but sing it for Krishna. Whatever you do it as an offering to Krishna. So whatever songs that you knew before Krishna consciousness, or Krishna consciousness doesn't even sing that song, the melody you can take. See, Prabhupada said yes to that. You can take the melody, that's the music part of it, and put the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra in there and sing that. You don't have to be an expert musician. But as long as you're doing it to remember Krishna, Krishna says, that's the best use of time. Do it as an offering for Krishna. All the austerities we perform, some of it is being put into our way of life, the regulated principles. We eat Krishna Prasadam, we offer the Krishna before we eat. And what Krishna says you don't eat, you don't eat. What Krishna says you eat, you eat. So we have restricted ourselves to a diet based on what Krishna likes. Krishna is saying that we do. And of course, we have the instruction to his representative, the spiritual master. So we have to mold our life such that time is used for Krishna consciousness. And if we're really serious, then our intelligence helps us a whole lot. And I know that personally. If I'm wasting time, my intelligence is going to kick in and say, what are you using this for? Is it helpful to you? What has Rupa Goswami said? Whatever is favorable for Krishna consciousness, you do it. And if it's not favorable for Krishna consciousness, you have to reject it. So we're constantly getting help from what we need to do. Because when your heart is really open to Krishna consciousness, then Krishna helps you, purifies intelligence, and sends, this is by Paramatma, sends all kinds of information from early in the morning, ideas are coming. Sometimes you get to look back at what the day was like, how well you used the day. If I didn't use the day properly, the things that I may have done wrong were pointed out. Then we start with the day's resolution. Okay, today I'm going to be for the day, one day at a time, because we're so conditioned. One day at a time. Today, I'm going to, then everything that in Krishna consciousness that you need to do, we're going to do it with great attention. And those things that we did yesterday, which were a waste of time, I'll never do that again. That's the way we improve our life. And slowly then we become better. So it's not too difficult. Krishna is time I am, Krishna is, and of course your Papa has now broken it down to smaller, split second up to the time that we used to. And by the way, one final point. Our one day is a split second to the demigods. Nothing to do. Just like, split second, the way it was described here. But the one that we know, 1/11th of a second, lava. It's a very short time to us. But living entities and the different bodies have very much to do with how they see time. But all of them are going through Kali Yuga, 100 years. And Lord Brahma, he also lived 100 years of his time, which is 311 trillion and 40 billion years. So you can imagine the split second, for him is a long time for us. 1 second of Lord Brahma is 100,000 years for us. So time is quite interesting, but whatever it is that we talked about it in a scientific way, by the Lord's mercy and my Guru's mercy, we just have to use it to serve Krishna and Krishna's devotees. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So now you can unmute yourself and go for it. Let's have some Krishna Katha. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
This chapter, this topic of time has been sometimes difficult to understand, to grasp. We just are having to, but today's class, my takeaway is that don't waste time. It doesn't
That's true.
and use it properly. And as far as science goes, scientists also are, the way I look at it is it's evolving, it's developing. 50 years ago, certain things were looked at, and now they think they understand it better. But the best one I had heard was the God particle. Something cannot be explained, and they just say, it's God particle. I mean, I don't know what exactly they had defined God particle as.
God particle?
Yeah, I've heard that, that
like
they've gone down to
G-O-D?
the GOD.
GOD particle.
Yes.
Hey, Krishna. I like the fact that they forgot it for the particle.
I think when they went down to the smallest unit, it used to be the atom first, and then they went to, I think, whatever.
Particles inside the atom.
Yes, and then finally it's the God particle. But my question is, about children, how do you, as adults, we understand it, this way, at least this is how I understand that science is developing, it is trying to catch up to what Krishna has been telling us. It's
Yes.
behind, they don't know, and so they're learning and they're inching their way. They're not discovering anything, they have not made anything that Krishna has been able to create. But we send children to school, they have to deal with what the schools are teaching them in science. How do we help them, with evolution, with the way we understand the universe? Bhagavatam explains the universe a certain way, but
Yeah.
in schools they are taught a certain way. If we are going to send them to a school and not a gurukul, then how do we help them get through that?
It is a very difficult situation to put our
Yeah.
children through.
Yeah.
And we have to understand this very sensitive discussion topic. I obviously have been through, and as we all are, have been through school. And I didn't have much of any situation to deal with, right? Because I wasn't raised with Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. So whatever they said in school, I didn't think there was any problem with it until I went to grad school, and then I realized they were assuming so many things, and I had to assume things, and then I say, "Oh, you assumed, then you proved, so you don't really know." That's when I began to question things. But anyway, to come back to this, Bhaktideva Damodar Swami, who is my godbrother, the sannyasi now with disciples, had a lecture in Reading, Pennsylvania. About a month or so ago, he was in this area. And he talked about something that I felt that really, really, really touched my heart. And the next day I met him and I said, we have to help. Because the schools that devotees need to go to, devotee children need to go to, should be schools that blend science and Krishna consciousness together. To have the children understand that what Krishna consciousness is saying is final. That's the kind of school. Therefore, we call the Gurukul true enough. And right now, we're spending time talking about what's in the Bhagavad Gita and explaining it to the point where the children can understand. That's good. Some of them are under the category of Sunday schools because we all meet at least once a week on Sunday afternoon. But what needs to happen is a school system that actually teaches material knowledge that doesn't go in contrast or doesn't go against what is in the that's in our scriptures. That's what needs to happen. See, subjects like math, that's not going to change. There will be better understanding from math about math, and especially astronomy and astrology also, but astronomy in our books, in our Bhagavad Gita, in our Srimad Bhagavatam, and the other books that Goswamis have written, explaining things. So, to the extent that we don't have schools that teach the material knowledge and the Krishna conscious knowledge as the way the structure of the curriculum is, we are behind. And the children are putting up with a situation where the material science, which is not perfect, is being taught to them, and they are forced to memorize that because they will have to have, to answer it the way they were taught in order to get a good grade, to get a good transcript. And that puts the children in. So one of them described it, I lead a double life, my school life with it, and then when I come home, my Krishna conscious life. The way they described it. And it's very pathetic.
Yes.
So there's some of us, and we've looked at it. There's one book that I'm finishing, but that's on humility. And then we'll just delve into, I'm actually finished and just editing it now. Delve into how to bring Krishna consciousness into the lives of our youth in a very strong way, while the material knowledge is also added to it. And in that sense, we're thinking about writing books that remind devotees, our devotee children, of the topics in Krishna consciousness, blended into the regular subjects. For example, in math, I'll just take one example. In math, we have two types of questions that usually ask. We have your regular symbols type questions in algebra, the X and the Y's and so on. And then we have word problems, the sentences with some numbers in there and a question, and the end you're supposed to figure it out. Now, the word problems can easily be changed where a person that is writing, an author that knows Krishna consciousness, can fashion the question based on Krishna consciousness rather than on some material something. If you just take somewhere in material energy and some unit and put it there and make a question out of it. Rather than do that, in the Krishna consciousness school, so we need to establish curriculums, but also with the kind of textbooks that when they teach English, when they teach math, when they teach the other subjects, they are bringing Krishna consciousness into it. It's easy to do it in physics because then you have to bring in what Bhagavatam describes into the physics as you're teaching it, into chemistry as you're teaching it, and much more easily into math. Math is very factual as we're teaching it. So those are the two things that need to happen. And Bhaktivedanta Damodar Swami talked about that and immediately got my attention. Yeah, we need to establish schools that teach material knowledge and teach hands-on knowledge also. So, practical things. And then also the subjects should be turned in such a way that as we learn the material subjects, we're remembering Krishna at the same time. So that's not been done yet. So now it's difficult for our children to take this type of knowledge that they learn in school, which later on they'll find out Bhagavatam, some of it is not what Bhagavatam says. And then we have to impress upon them that actually, yeah, you learn this is material knowledge. It's based on assumptions, but Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita are factual. So you have to take that and basically leave them to finish their exams based on this material knowledge that's being taught to them, just so they can get a good transcript, and with that get a good job, and then hopefully we haven't lost them mentally, that they can actually take to Krishna consciousness also. So no, we put ourselves in a very precarious situation as far as our children. We need to change that. We really need to have our own schools. We need to have our own types of books. And then I'm gonna be part of it to try to get some of those books if we get the go ahead from whoever the GBC is with education. I think his name is Tapan Mishra. He's online. I'll contact him and urge others to write books like that. So that and then the schools establishing those, and then we can actually take our own youth and bring them into Krishna consciousness still with the material knowledge. The Amish are doing it. They already are doing it, with their understanding of Christianity as they have been taught. They have schools. So we need that too. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, I think in a Sunday school situation, it is very difficult. We don't have as much contact with the children. It's only an hour a week. But I'm noticing that the older kids, the younger kids, it's a little bit easier. But the older kids are starting to think on their own, and they're starting to wonder, they're asking questions. And like you said, navigating the double life, we are always complaining about how they are, torturing the teachers or torturing the adults, but then you have to see what a struggle they are going through also. We bombard them with this information, the school bombards them with that information. We expect them to navigate that, and it's a very difficult, and sometimes some children will argue with question, but then they don't have all the information. in both
Yeah.
areas, both the Bhagavatam and the scriptures on this side and the science on the other side, but they're all starting to think on their own, and it is. So yeah, this cannot happen fast enough.
Yeah, yeah. As long as we haven't set up our schools to teach the children, it's good to learn about Krishna consciousness, but as long as we haven't taught the children to be able to blend material knowledge and see it as a subset of Krishna consciousness, and at the same time be able to take what is the material knowledge, in not presented in a kami way, but in a Krishna conscious way, presented that way. It's going to be difficult. That the question will still be there. That they will still feel that they're leading a double life. As some of them explained. So yeah, it's really quite serious. We got a long way to go. So what needs to happen is that in different subjects, those who are experts, who already, this is adults now, who have that understanding, should begin to seriously rewrite books for our youth, for our little children, in such a way that Krishna conscious ideas are incorporated in those so-called material books, so they become more holistic, like that. That's the only way I see now at this point that's going to bring our children's minds back to center, rather than have, but this one is taught this way in school, and I come here and in Sunday school, I hear it differently this way. So I have to study this other thing for my exams. And then, Krishna conscious, well, that we're told that takes me back to Godhead. So I have to add that to my life, even with some of the points that are in Krishna consciousness are not taken in the same way in the schools. That's why the books have to change. And I have to have my own schools too. Otherwise, the problem won't go away. We have work to do. Hare Krishna. Any other comments, questions?
About this timings when kids were born, the exact time, what I remember, at my time, and then even my children's time also, little bit we noted that hours and seconds and everything. In our language, Gadiya, Vigadiya, like that they do. So until we have the exact time, if I give the horoscope to somebody, they will say, no, give me the exact time when the kid was born. So whoever is there at that time of the birth, that there, they used to give those labor room, those people used to give us exact time when the kid came into the world.
Yeah, but there's a constellation of the stars and the effects of a person's destiny. Yeah. Yeah.
Now that's not there anymore. Oh, 7 o'clock, you were born in August 14th, August 5th, and 7 o'clock in the morning. That's it. That is not the exact time at all.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean.
The material
some
time.
devotees are doing it, though. I know for our 2 children, we definitely noted the exact time. Yeah. I mean, the first time when the child came out of the womb, we looked at the time, and it was dead on 4 o'clock on the first one. So we made a note, and when she grew up,
so
said,
slowly
this is when you were born.
Are
this
gone.
Is the exact time. The exact time is very important.
Exact time is very important. Otherwise, nobody can tell your horoscope properly.
Yeah.
When my kids, I made that horoscope in Chennai, they asked me that exact time.
Yes.
So luckily I had it that time, but not anymore.
Yeah.
The English time, this material time, we say 7 o'clock in the morning or 7:30, like that. That's not exact time. Seconds, including seconds, and then what is that small second they were saying, Today we had in the chat, the one you are showing. Like that they have to show.
Yeah, I see. Anyway, yeah, it's not perfect the way we look at it.
It's not perfect.
It's not. But the overriding thing is, by the Lord's mercy, when we chant the Krishna conscious mantra, the Hare Krishna mantra, and begin to serve, then regardless of the fact that we may not know our future from an astrological standpoint, still Krishna will guide us anyway. That's the advantage that we have, especially as devotees.
That's true.
We're going to be guided anyway, because the aim of a devotee is go back to Godhead, to go back to Godhead. And that, that overrides the constellation of the stars, the material stars, and so on. It overrides that. And so in Kali Yuga, this is the big advantage in Kali Yuga. We've been given a very simple process of chanting the holy name of the Lord in order to go back. And the service has been broken down. Prahlad Maharaj has already broken down 9 ways of serving, and Rupa Goswami has talked about the things to avoid and the things to do in the nectar of instruction. Nectar of devotion tells you so much, all the way up to pure devotional service to the Lord and how you develop prema. So all of these things have been put so that we can make the best use of the time and feed our souls, not the material part, and feed our souls so the soul can get back to the spiritual world. So for that, that's the overriding benefit or blessing that we have in this Kali Yuga. So even the children, we need to, what we talked about, we don't have to play with it. It's work that we need to do to bring our children's mind to be consistent, material and spiritually, rather than leave them in the school where they're telling all kinds of things that are assumptions, half of them not true. It reminds me of one point that happened to me when I was teaching in community college, and I let, as they say in America, I let the cat out of the bag. I shouldn't have said something like that. And boy, my students got upset with me. Now, community college, the adult students, some of them that are working and they come back to community college to kind of change a career or go up and so on, get some more knowledge. And I was teaching chemistry, and it got to a point where I described something, and then I said that it's an assumption, actually. It's not known factually. And then the students said, but why are we learning it then? And I was caught. I literally was caught. I had to get out of this. That's your textbook. It says so, what to do.
When I was young, my sister-in-law used to say, you know what, you finish your work now today. When I was 8, 9 years old, she used to say, no, this time won't come again. You're losing your time. Like that, she used to say. I used to argue with her. Why can't, today 8 o'clock, tomorrow 8 o'clock, I will get it. So what is it? She says, I don't get that time again. So that's how I used to feel. But now I know the 8 o'clock today is gone. Again,
and it never comes back. Yeah. What we've lost, we've lost. Yeah. So we always have to make very good use of time. If we haven't, we have to correct it. This is also part of our purification. Yeah, make very good use of time.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Very nice.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Glad you to Prabhupada. Any final comments? If not, then thank you all for coming on to have a Krishna Katha, as family, spiritual family. So have a nice, wonderful rest of your day. I'm sure the program in the afternoon will be there for all Krishna Katha and Sadhu Sangha at the same time. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Vanchakalpatarubhasya kripa sindhubhyo pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.